Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
However, as we have evolved the movement, we've gone deeper into the knowledge and the studies. We realized that it was not just one coronation, there was 3 crownings. The triple crown is often referred to within the faith. The first of those days of that crowning are fast approaching, which is September 27th. September 27th is now the Rastafari community globally is starting to recognize this day. We also have to look at February 11th, which was a formal crowning, took place on February 11th. But September 27th is when the actual title was bestowed upon His Majesty as Ras, Regent, heir to the throne. So it's a day that we will commemorate on this channel, on this network, making sure that we highlight these things.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice. Well, the leaders of the world have failed in their responsibility to lead the youths them to a brighter future. Well, I and I hear the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, Earth's rightful ruler. I just the way Rastafari crowd, unconquerable. Me come to tell them now about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the way Rastafari crowd, unconquerable. Me come to tell them now about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about Holy Palace intrigue, infighting between Solomon seed. Well, Empress Title want her family to lead. Well, King Michael want him son to lead, but King Michael now watch the orphan married to him niece, who get up every day and a study and a read. He work and he pray every day. He achieve. Them say you're the leader. Every nation need a just the way Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Well,
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Panafrican Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of the Lion's Voice. Welcome to the Lion Voice Network, and welcome to the Lion's Voice, our flagship program here on the network every Saturday. And I have to give a special welcome because we are entering the coronation season. What does that mean? That means that within Rastafari, we celebrate November 2nd as the pinnacle of coronation, the day that Haile Selassie was crowned, the genesis of the birth of the global Rastafari movement when Haile Selassie became a known entity through the papers of the world. The sound reached Jamaica, Chicago, other areas. We know the story, and we'll get deeper into it in future episodes. So the coronation is one of the biggest Haile days or celebration in Rastafari culture. Nyabingi is kept, 12 tribes usually keep gatherings, Bobo Shanti, and brethren just generally honor and reverence this day. However, as we have evolved the movement, we've gone deeper into the knowledge and the studies. We realized that it was not just one coronation, there was 3 crownings. The triple crown is often referred to within the faith. The first of those days of that crowning are fast approaching, which is September 27. The first crowning, which when he was given the title of Ras, regent, plenipotentiary, and when he actually took control of the whole land of Ethiopia in terms of the power, heir to the throne. That was September 27, 1916, and this episode we're going to go into the events that surrounded that. I wrote a song about it, The Way Rastafari Crowned. That's the title song for this episode.
Just the way Rastafari crowned, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari, this uncle you.
And then we're going to just talk about the significance of the Triple Crown. So we're in the season. I have something massive to announce. Hopefully we're finalizing all of the details. So I'm praying that we'll be able to bring you some special content this coronation, November 2nd, coming up here on the Lion Voice Network. But we are going to dive into coronation. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. This is the channel where we talk about things that are pertinent to the Rastafari culture, the Pan-African culture, black culture, and we really give the lions and the lionesses a chance to tell their own story, and we tell our own collective story. We talk about relationships, we talk about health, we talk about all kind of things that relate to the culture right here. So if this is your first episode, you've come to the right place. Subscribe and become a part of the Lion Pride. How do you become a part of the Lion Pride? Those who are here, we're almost 1,700 strong now, will tell you that to subscribe, to become part of the Lion Pride, you must subscribe. Subscribe to become part of the Lion Pride. So we are getting ready. We didn't even spend a whole heap of time in the 1600s, to be honest. The Lion Pride are rolling. We've had several milestones on the channel. I want to just say give thanks. The Lion Pride has been spreading the word sound. I've been hearing the comments, the likes. It helps to push the message on the algorithm. We cannot burn Babylon unless we present a viable alternative, and that is what this channel is all about, the building of Zion, what Rastafari future looks like. So we talk about the past so that we can have that anchor as we push forward to the future. This is not a channel where we're stuck in the past, no. And we bring you cutting edge works from in the Rastafari movement. So welcome. We passed 14,000 unique viewers in the last 28 days. That's a milestone for the channel. That's a arena full of people have watched this channel in the last 28 days. We passed 22,000 views in the last 28 days, which is also a new channel milestone. We also eclipsed 300 subscribers in the last 28 days. Again, these are all milestones for the channel, so I'm feeling so powerful. This is one of the most satisfying things that I've done as a creative, as someone who has been advising creatives to step out and do this for I myself. I'm not going to lie to the item. It's been a joy to see the platform grow. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers by January 1st. So spread the word, help us to achieve this monumental task. We are pushing, we are getting ready to press gas. We have some exclusive interviews lined up, coming up from the Rastafari family, the Pan-African family. We're going to drop them like a bomb. We have on-site things that we are going to be bringing you live and direct. We are going to be bringing them voices from the continent shortly as well. So just keep it locked right here as we move forward. But I want to get into the topic of the episode, which is the first crowning, the elevation of Dejazmatch to Ras. I took the title, the Dejazmatch, unto myself. I want to just give a brief little history. When I came into the movement, the elders that I came into, some legendary elders, I was given the title of Ras. So Ras Kwasi as a youth just coming into the faith, and I charted within that fullness. But as I began to read and I began to study His Majesty and the journey, I realized that there was progressions. And this is where now the Rastafari man standard, one of the things that we're going to be bringing forward to the world, or one of Iman contribution I would like to bring to the world and to the liberty, is the Rastafari man standard. Meaning that when we see a man with the title of Ras, it's earned. We know that he's gone through a matriculation. And this is important in terms of rites of passage for our youths. If we can start them as Lidj, they go through the stage of the Dejazmatch and they come into Ras. In the case of His Majesty, who, we're named after His Majesty, so the tradition, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're walking in those footsteps. Now, how that relates to the individual, this is now where we're going to be having the reasoning as we put together this standard. And I'm not going to put together this standard I myself, but the concept and the idea, I feel is important to use this platform to put forward that standard. And next episode, we're going to talk more in detail about the stages of His Majesty from a man perspective, a Rastafari man perspective, as we matriculate, as we get ready to lead this new reality, this heaven on earth. We need a different standard of man to rise in the earth. The little loosey-goosey vibration cannot work. And we see we've gone through generations of loosey-goosey. Yes, we have one and two man where hold the order and we give thanks, but we see with the advent of the internet and these things, it's very difficult because there's so much distractions. The ones are not being persecuted. There was a time when the elders had to live together, so they were actually sharpening each other. They couldn't mix with anybody because it wasn't accepted in the society. So of course the standard of the liberty was that high, and this is that generation of legendary elders. We as a generation don't have that luxury. People go home at them yard, they're distracted, they're not getting that concentrated dose of the liberty like the ancient time. So it's incumbent on I and I, who lived and saw those elders, who interacted with those elders, who studied the king, to leave a black print for the younger generation, for the next generation, so that they can continue to elevate. And again, the blueprint or the black print comes from Kadamawi, Haile, Selassie. So I trod right now as the Dejazmatch, but I also say aka Raskwasi because I was already given the title. So there will become a time when I will fully again rise and embrace the title. But I feel that to be a Ras, there are certain prerequisites that are necessary, and I'll outline those in future episodes. The Dejazmatch, again, if we look at His Majesty matriculation through life, in the Dejazmatch is really established the foundation to be crowned as Ras. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let us go to the autobiography. I am the reading Ras. And before I forget, we have been reasoning with Ras Sekou Sankara Tafari. Watch that episode.
So these are the things where, the backdrop to what influenced me. I was involved in the trade union movement, the United Labour Front in Trinidad, who brought the country down to a standstill in 1975.
Okay.
I also after that.
Were you Rastafari at this time?
Well, I started to gravitate to Rastafari consciously around 1974.
1974.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started to gravitate to Rastafari consciously.
So you were already active in the Black Power movement in Trinidad.
Yes, I was
What
active.
made you make that transition from Black Power to Rastafari? We heard about your mother telling you about the emperor. You went to see the emperor as a child.
Yes.
But now, as a young man, did you have a big afro at the time? Were you wearing the afro?
Well, I had an afro, but I don't know if it was a big afro. My father made my first afro pick or afro
Okay.
comb. right? Out of he had just come back from St. Croix, and he made me my first wooden Afro pick or Afro comb with what we use spikes or from the bicycles.
Yes.
You know that, yeah. So and so on. But what the transition to Black Power was not from Black Power. It wasn't really a transition because within Rastafari is the same thing. It's Black Power. Rastafari is just an extension of within the Pan-African movement and Pan-African family.
So mighty episode on Lion Talk Live, doing very well on the channel. But we have been reasoning, so we are going to be working to make the autobiography and some other seminal books available through the Lion Voice ecosystem. We're working on the details. In the meantime, go over to Frontline Books, support Rastafari. Tafari has a large catalog of Rastafari books. I put up the contact information on the screen. Go and support them. Let us circulate the Rastafari dollar, the Pan-African dollar, the black dollar, the global human family dollar, because I know that there are people of all nations and creeds that watch the channel, and we welcome the IDEM as part of the family. But we have to build our root. As a black man, as a Rastafari man, I have to talk to other black Rastafari man and implore them to rise with I to take on this task of the building and operation and elevation of Zion on earth. This is the task that His Majesty embarked on, and this is the task that we are now seeing unfolding. So let's go to the autobiography. We're going to chapter, let's read from the autobiography of His Majesty. We're going from chapter 7. Again, this is Frontline, just so the item see, Frontline Distribution International. I have my book from Ancient Days. So again, building this ecosystem is one of the greatest things because I get to work now with people who I considered legends within the Liberty. Now we get to work, we get to team up. I can bring something to the table to really help to strengthen Rastafari family, make I man feel so good. But we're not going to get distracted, family, but I feel good. So we're going to read from chapter 7, the Reading Ras. Books happy in our thing. From the deposition of Lidj Iyasu on 17th Mascaram 1909, aka the 27th of September 1916, to the assumption of the crown by Queen Zaditu on the 4th of Yakatit 1909, aka 11th of February 1917. While Lidj Iyasu went to and fro between the towns of Diradawa, Harar, and Jijiga, and while he assembled Adalites and Somalis, giving them medals and arms, he stayed there declaring, "I am on your side in respect of religion." It was then heard Muslims were mocking, "He is neither Christian nor Muslim." On the 17th day of Mascaram, 1909, otherwise known as the 27th of September 1916, on the day of the great feast of Maskel, it was arranged that the nobles, with the army and the Archbishop Abuna Matthias and the Etege Walde Georgis, with the priests, should assemble at a prepared place within the precincts of the palace. And when they had all arrived and taken their seat according to their rank, the following indictment against Lidj Iyasu, which had been secretly prepared, was read out. The Christian faith, which our fathers had heretofore carefully retained by fighting for their faith with the Muslims and by shedding their blood, Lidj Iyasu exchanged for the Muslim religion and aroused commotion in our midst. In order to exterminate us by mutual fighting, he has converted to Islam, and therefore we shall henceforth not submit to him.
We shall not place a Muslim king on the throne of a Christian king. We have ample proof of his conversion to Islam. Number 1, he married 4 wives, claiming the Quran permits it to me. Of these wives, one is the daughter of Abiba Jafar of the Jimma nobility. The second is the daughter of Hajj Abdullah of the Harar nobility. The third is the daughter of Abu Bakr of the Adal nobility. And the father of the fourth, Dejazmatch Tafari, became a Christian and baptized his daughter. While she lived under her baptismal name, Askala Maryam, it was to Dejazmatch Tafari's daughter that he, Lidj Iyasu, later on, after his conversion to Islam, gave the Muslim woman's name of Mumia. 2, he built a mosque at Jijiga with government funds and gave it to the Muslims. 3, at the time, he sent Mahazar Bey, foreign Turkish consul resident at Addis Ababa, as he was celebrating the Ramadan feast. Our Ethiopian flag, on which there was written "The Lion of Judah has prevailed," and adorned with the sign of the cross, on which he caused to have written the following words in Arabic: "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." 4, he wrote Somali Muslim clothes and Muslim turban, held the Islamic rosary, and was seen to prostrate himself in the mosque. 5, he was seen praying and reading the Quran, having had it transcribed in Amharic characters. 6, on his headgear of his special guards, he has embroidered the legend, "There is no God but Allah." 7, His Highness Ras Makonnen had built a church at Harar and had made the area adjoining the church into a dwelling for the clergy, giving the Muslims a place in exchange. Then, 32 years later, he, Lidj Iyasu, expelled the clergy and restored it to the Muslims. 8, when a girl was born to him, he saw to it that she would grow up learning Muslim religion and gave her to the Muslim Madame Hanifi and said, "Bring her up on my behalf." 9, he despised the descent of Menelik II, which comes directly from Menelik I, and he claimed to be descendant from the Prophet Muhammad. Assembling the great Muslim sheikhs, he spent a day convincing them of his genealogical calculations. 10, the day on which our great king, Emperor Menelik, who had bequeathed to him the throne, died, instead of mourning and arranging lamentation, he went out horse riding to Jan Mida and spent the day playing combat games. He forbade Menelik's body to be buried with dignity, and thus it had remained up to now. We possess a great deal of further similar proof against Lidj Iyasu. Therefore, having deposed him, Lidj Iyasu, we have placed on the throne Waziro Zaditu, Emperor Menelik's daughter, and we have appointed Dejazmatch Tafari, the son of His Highness Ras Makonnen, the Crown Prince, the rank of Ras and Regent of the Empire. When the reading of this proclamation was concluded, all those assembled said with one voice, "We accept gladly. Hence, it be carried out with success." The Archbishop, Buna Matthias, and the Etege, Walda Georgis, spoke the following final words: "Lidj Iyasu has repudiated the Christian religion, and because he has been converted to the Islamic faith, we have excommunicated him. You will be excommunicated if henceforth you follow Lidj Iyasu and submit to him, instead of living strong in the Orthodox faith and watchful of the freedom of your government. Afterwards, the proclamation which was issued, by which the throne and the crown went to Queen Zaiditu, while the succession to the throne and the regency plenipotentiary went to me. The text of the proclamation was then transmitted by phone to the princes and nobles and all the provincial governors in the whole of Ethiopia. As it was about 40 years since Negus Michael had been converted from Islam to Christianity, he had been mentioning to some of the nobles his sadness at his son's conversion to Islam. Consequently, the text of the proclamation was transmitted to him in the thought that he would be bound to be allied with us now as in regards to his son's deposition. When Lidj Iyasu stayed at Harar, heard about his own deposition, the enthronement of Queen Zaiditu, and my appointment as Crown Prince, the Regent Plenipotentiary, he collected Somalis and Adalites and arranged for disturbance to be created in the city. As Christians and Muslims were now fighting on separate sides, some 500 men from both sides died. As the Dejazmatch Balcha and Dejazmatch, now Ras Emaru, were at the time at Harar, they were seized. But Lidj Iyasu released the Dejazmatch Balcha under oath that he would not get separated from him. Dejazmatch Emaru, however, he kept under detention. All my officers and servants, with a few exceptions, who were at Harar deserted Lidj Iyasu, departed from the district called Kwara, and began to wait there in proper battle formation. Dejazmatch Emaru escaped from the place at which he had been detained and went out there. This is what happened to Lidj Iyasu subsequently. Having collected a regular body of troops, he appointed the Dejazmatch Guksa Alyo as army commander. Since it was reported that Lidj Iyasu had dispatched him to Awash, we made the Dejazmatch Alyalu Beru army commander and sent the Dejazmatch Haile Mariam Lima, the Dejazmatch Admasa Beru, Lidj Abibi Damta, Lidj Dasta, Damta Fitarari, Mikilya, and Gurmami, and added other regular troops. They encountered each other at a railway station called Mizo, and on the 25th of Meskarem, otherwise known as October 5th, they defeated the Dejazmatch Guksa Alyo. He himself, however, escaped by train and entered Dera Dara. When Lidj Iyasu saw that the Christians at Harar and its entire province, as well as the Muslims, were deserting him, he went down to Dera Dara and seized about all he could of the money in the treasury. What he could not take, he sent to Djibouti by the hands of Mr. Wild Dilby, and then traveled by way of the Adal Desert to reach his father's government of Wallo.
So first and foremost, you can see the list very meticulously laid out, the indictment against Lidj Iyasu. This is showing that this was not a haphazard. It wasn't one or two or few justifications that they had for the excommunication and removing him from the throne, because he's a prince of the royal bloodline. So this has to be done very methodically, and His Majesty is very careful in his autobiography to detail what happened. But you could see he had 4 wives, right? So that going to distinguish him from being on the throne as a Christian. And if you read my book, Haile Selassie's Ethiopia, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings, there's a reason that I started giving the Islamic history in Ethiopia, because to understand even this moment here is to understand the rise of Ahmed Gran, from Harar, from Adal Sultanate. The closest to ever conquering Ethiopia was an Islamic jihad that was led in the 16th century by an Islamic imam named Ahmed Gran, who the Christian Ethiopians called Gran the Left-Handed. Slaughtered thousands, of Ethiopians, maybe even hundreds of thousands. Even the emperor at the time was killed, his head paraded, all kind of things happened during that time. So there's a sensitivity to Ethiopia becoming an Islamic kingdom. So that is reflected, you can see in how these points are laid out and how. So don't take it to be anti-Islamic, because of course the Christian king of Ethiopia gave refuge to Islam. So naturally, there should be a respect of that throne by Islam, and I believe the Prophet Muhammad uttered words to that effect, that there should never be jihad or war against Ethiopia because of the kindness that was shown by the Christian king. So that is recorded from an Islamic perspective. Even though I talk about in my book, in some Islamic sources, they say that the king or the emperor at the time converted to Islam, but we don't have any evidence of that in terms of continuation. Ethiopia maintained itself as a Christian kingdom from that time until this time. So this was very instrumental into Haile Selassie being elevated from just a prince of the realm, his childhood companion in some respects, Lidj Iyasu, who by all accounts, playboy, rich youth, moving through, doing, feel like ladies man. There are sounds that he was infected by syphilis, so he might have had some mental health issues. There are all type of things we cannot verify. But what is clear is that he did not have the confidence of the elders and the nobles, other than those of his bloodline and those who are close to the line, or those who would use him to their ends. He had, foreign connections with the Ottoman Empire. This was around the time of World War One was raging in Europe. The whole shuffling of the chessboard was happening. So he was looked at as a potentially useful chess piece for Ethiopia, the Kingdom of Zion. So we have to look at these things. So you can see that when Lidj Iyasu found out this information, he started to make war, because, of course, he had a vision in his mind of uniting Christianity, Islam, and these things. He was a dreamer, they say. But this, he was not going about it in the right way. And by abdicating his Christian faith and embracing Islam, he basically sealed his fate, or he sealed that there would be war to settle this dispute. And there was a great war that took place between, this is one of the seminal battles or wars in the history. Sizzla Kalonji have a song where he said, "He has been crowned for fighting so many wars." And, I always loved that as a young Ras, listening to these songs. And when you read the history, you really see it's a lot of war for true the fight, And it was a lot of lives lost, in one conflict here, we're hearing about 500 Ethiopians dying, losing their life, in this Game of Thrones. And this is why it's so important for Ayman to write the story, because it's epic, the young prince seeing that he's about to lose and start war in Harar, capture His Majesty cousin Ras Imaru, who time was Dejazmatch, and then now Ras Imaru escaped Ghana. You know what I mean? There's so much levels of the intrigue. I'm really excited about writing the story. So we're only at the first volume. So if you haven't gotten Haile Selassie's Ethiopia, get it. We're gonna start writing the second volume shortly. But again, we need the support. Jump in the Patreon support. I'm gonna start. I just finished writing a fiction novel. I'm gonna start putting some of the chapters up in Patreon. So support the author, because the author wants to write this epic story. But, epic story. But, September 27th is now the Rastafari community globally is starting to recognize this day. We also have to look at February 11th, which was a formal crowning, took place on February 11th. But September 27th is when the actual title was bestowed upon His Majesty as Ras, Regent, heir to the throne. So it's a day that we will commemorate on this channel, on this network, making sure that we highlight these things. And I want to hear from the family. So if you celebrated this or you knew about this first coronation, drop a comment. Let us know how you feel that this day should be celebrated, whether it should be a day off of work, ISIS, you don't feel it should be celebrated at all, just reasoning. Because we have to start reconfigure as Rastafari our own reality. Thanksgiving is a major holiday in America because that's when the Europeans came, some pilgrims come and, they created a story around it and it becomes a major holiday. So as Rastafari, we have to look at these days and start to create our own concepts and reality as it relates to these special days. But again, we are coming into the coronation season. The 27th, we kick off coronation season with the first crowning of Ras. Next strong, we're going to talk about the Rastafari man standard and some concepts that I have in terms of milestones I think a man should reach before he start take on to himself these type of titles. Because Ras mean head, meaning that if you say you're a Ras, you should be able to mobilize a mass of people toward whatever cause you're doing. When the Rases come to the table, Babylon should shake because is a whole movements upon movements have come together. So that is what we are doing now as a Dejazmatch. We are building the infrastructure as a Dejazmatch. That's your building phase, and these phases not necessarily tied to age because His Majesty is 24 in 1916 when this title is bestowed upon him. So he's a young man coming into his fullness when this title is bestowed upon him. And we have a lot to say, but there's no end to reasoning in Mount Zion, only continuation. So I'm going to touch some more the next episode. But again, this is about recognizing the crowning, acknowledging the coronation season, acknowledging the coronation season. I'm praying that I'm going to have a major announcement to announce for this coming coronation. Keep it locked. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're sharing. Make sure you're dropping the comments so we can boost the algorithm. The more you interact and engage with the channel, the more that YouTube sends it out on the road. YouTube say, okay, people are watching this. People are tapping. I'd send it out the road. So Lion Pride. I'm humbly requesting Lion Pride. All 1600, we're moving to 1700 plus this strong of I. Spread it out. Why should you spread it out, you're asking? Because the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's Voice.
Lion voice. Well, the leaders of the world have failed in their responsibility to lead the youths them to a brighter future. Well, I and I hear the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, Earth's rightful ruler. I just way Rastafari crowned, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the way Rastafari crowned, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about Holy Palace intrigue, in fighting between Solomon seed. Well, Empress tied to want her family to lead. Well, King Michael want him son to lead, but King Michael now watch the orphan married to him niece, who get up every day and a study and a read. He work and he pray every day. He achieve. Them say you're the leader. Every nation need a just the way Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the way Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Well, Ras Michael, son was having a good time when he should mind the affairs of the state, cause he's descent from the great line of Menelik the second. But he's stepping on toes of his elders, treat his women like hoes, he exposed. Now we working with the Ottoman Turks, say he's descending from Muhammad, but that's not how this works. See, the crown was anointed by the Orthodox Church, so if you are ruling as I don't have to put Christ first. I just the way Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the way Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Then Ras Michael find out him son was excommunicated. He didn't care, him and Rastafari related. Army activated, hey yo, war drum beat. And now alone every warrior pass straight. They march to the capital, nah skin teeth. Them say your problems from them and Tafari meet. When them look up in the sky, warplanes first time them see it. So them start fear Tafari name in the streets. I just the way Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the way Rastafari crown, he's unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about.
Perfect, man. One take.
One take.
You did that one before.
Yes.